Well, I do think sweet potatoes are on top of the list as one of the most sustainable food crops we can grow in the backyard vegetable garden, as long as some more out there. I just don't really understand why more people don't grow sweet potatoes in their backyard vegetable garden. You know, it's one of those things, once you get started and you keep your potatoes from year to year and you keep that cycle going, you never have to have another input. You can grow your own plants from your previous crop every year. You know, that being said, you think about it, you never have to buy another plant or seed again. You can keep sweet potatoes growing the rest of your life if you keep that cycle and keep your seed potatoes every year. And about the 1st of April, I will put these potatoes end to end in something like a raised bed right here. Now I'm using these wooden raised beds, and this raised bed here is probably 3 foot wide and 6 foot long at the most. And I stack my potatoes in there, just end to end, as close as I can get them. I cover them with a couple inches of soil. Then I'll take a little straw and dust on top, and I'll keep them watered. And in about 4 weeks, them things have sprouted, and I got plants, or some people call them slips, everywhere. Now, as you see, the end right here is where most of your slips or plants are going to come from on a sweet potato. But one potato is going to put off several plants. All right, so I like to plant my potatoes. We're in zone 8, somewhere around the end of May, 1st of June. And I plant my seed potatoes about 4 weeks earlier than that. That way my plants are ready when I'm ready. And we just simply go in there, grab you a good handful of them, and pull. And see there what some pretty sweet potato plants. Kind of separate them out. That little handful right there is going to net us probably about 4 good plants. So it doesn't take a very, very big area at all to grow a lot of plants. And another little neat trick is you can actually take your knife and cut the tops off, like that right there, and go in there and plant these tops. And everywhere there's a node right there, those will put out roots as well. Now that's what the commercial guys do. They go in there with a mower and they cut them off, and that's what they plant. Now if you do this, you're going to need to plant them pretty soon, because these are perishable and they don't last very long. So you probably need to do this the same day. On these slips here, these plants I pulled, man, those things right there will hold for you for several days. But being as we're growing our own plant, that's the great thing about it. We can pull our plants, we can cut our rootings when we're ready. So it's time to plant our sweet potato slips or plants. Now I'm going to preload this soil here with an organic fertilizer. I'm using our complete fertilizer, which is a pelletized chicken manure. And I'm going to put about 1 cup, which is 2 of these every 10 feet, to help give those potatoes a jump start. Now, if you've got chicken manure, you got horse manure, or any type of really good compost or manures, hey, feel more than welcome to use that. It's as good as anything. But I don't have that readily available, so I'm going to use this right here. If you hear a little snorting in the background, well, that's our hog we fattening out, and he's going to be going to his ending place in a few days, so he's making a little racket back there. I'm just going to sprinkle it in there where I'm putting my drip tape, under my drip tape there. Now, you don't have to use drip tape on your sweet potatoes, but I do. I kind of view it as an insurance policy. But don't get all worked up if you can't or don't have the ability to use drip tape. You can plant them and do overhead irrigation. Now, one thing I do like about the drip tape is I can do very constant and consistent watering. If you ever had sweet potatoes split on your lot, a lot of times that is because of inconsistent or erratic watering. So we never know how much rain we're going to get. I may not need that drip tape, but I got it there if I need it. I can keep those plants healthy, and I can water like I'm supposed to minimize those cracking or splits in my sweet potatoes. All right, so I'm planting my sweet potatoes out here on 4-foot rows. I'm just planting a couple rows this year. I grew a bunch of them last year. But 3 to 4 foot wide rows seems to be the best. I kind of prefer 4, gives it a little more room. Now on my plant spacing in the row, I'm gonna go with 12 inches. I'm planting on every emitter. All right, so the variety this year I'm growing, which is probably my favorite variety, is Covington. You know, you got Beauregard out there. I've grown it before. It's a good one. It's a great one for beginners there, and it's probably more productive than these Covingtons here. Covington seems to be my favorite. I like it because it grows a nice big potato. It's nice, uniform. It's probably the prettiest potato out there. There's another one out there called Georgia Jet. I like Georgia Jet too. Georgia Jet doesn't grow quite as pretty a potato, but it has higher sugar content in it. And if you're after a sweet, sweet tater, you need to get that Georgia Jet. Man, look at them roots right there. So we're gonna break those up right here. So we have plenty of them. Now sweet potatoes like phosphorus and potassium, or as we say, P and K. They probably like more phosphorus and potassium than they even do nitrogen. So you need to kind of plan ahead. Uh-oh, all the potato on that one there. You see how the sprouts came out there on it? We actually want to pull them off just like that right there. Anyway, on the nutrients, you want a lot of phosphorus and potassium in your soil. Now my soils are naturally high on those because I don't have to worry about it a lot. But if your soils are not high in phosphorus and potassium, you want to kind of plan ahead and get that nutrient into the soil. You can do that organically through using something like a hard rock or a soft rock phosphate, or you can buy some of these fertilizers out there. You probably have to order them if you can find them that are naturally high in phosphorus and potassium and low in nitrogen. But being mine, it's not that way. I can just use a natural balanced fertilizer and I'll be fine. Look at there, that was one handful of slips right there. I guess my point is it takes just a small little area, look at this right here, to grow all these plants. Well, I got all these off that little bitty square right there, and I'm gonna leave them taters in there because they're gonna probably sprout again and I'll have a few more slips. All right, so the way I like to plant my potatoes, I don't stick them straight down like some people do. I kind of lay mine in there, lay them sideways. They have plenty of spaces to root. You know, sweet potato plants are very resilient. Even if you get one that don't have any roots on there, hey, don't sweat it. Just put it in there sideways and cover it up, and it'll root and it'll grow fine. But it doesn't take, just like that one right there. Heck, I'll get 4 different plants off that little string of plants. Well, these leaves are going to brown up and yellow up a little bit, but the next few days they'll be shooting out, have new growth come alive, and they'll start growing like crazy. Sweet potatoes vine a lot, and you know what a good thing about sweet potatoes that most of you don't know? Enjoy those greens. We tried it last year for the first time. Man, I absolutely love those sweet potato greens as a stir fry. You can eat them several different ways, but they're delicious as a stir fry. Now, sweet potatoes love hot and can stand some dry weather, so it's an ideal crop to plant after a lot of your spring crops are over with. Now, the 2 major pests I want to talk about on sweet potatoes is insects. And they're worms, army worms and wire worms. Army worms are mobile and they move in. You got to keep an eye on those. If you start seeing something eating your leaves a lot, well, you want to treat it because those army worms can devour them quickly. Rabbits love them too, but rabbits normally don't do enough damage to cause you to have a decrease in your crop. You know, they got to eat too, but if they become an issue, you probably need to do something there. But them army worms can devour it in just a matter of days. Next one's wire worms. Now, wire worms are hard to control. Thus, those little holes, those little pinholes that bury into your sweet potatoes and that make them where you can't eat them. Those things live in the soil and they're harder to treat. The best way to control wire worms is good rotation. You don't want to plant sweet potatoes back in the same spot for 3 to 4 years. But you can use some cover crops to decrease that population of wire worms. A monocot or a grass type cover crop mixed with a clover works extremely well. So a ryegrass clover mixture ahead of those sweet potatoes will help starve and break that cycle of wireworms. Daikon radishes work well before planting sweet potatoes as a cover crop. And those mustards work good too as a cover crop to help break that cycle of wireworms. So good rotation, a good cover crop ahead will help you on those wireworms. And then you're just gonna have to keep an eye on those armyworms. If something starts eating on them, you're gonna have to treat them and treat them quick. The growing sweet potatoes should definitely be a part of your food plan. You know, these things, we store them almost 10 months out of the year. We have a supply. We can go in there and we can get us a fresh sweet potato. We can bake it, we can fry it, we can do whatever. Great food source that doesn't require electricity, which is a big plus. Just keep it in a cool, dry spot, keep it stored. So we got this that we're enjoying off of them. Also, we got those green leaves that we're enjoying all summer long. Excellent food source. I think everybody should be growing them. Once you get that cycle going, so that you have your own seed every year, never have to have another input. Now, if you don't have sweet potato slips, we do sell them. We got them on our website. But once you get it going, you'll never need to buy another sweet potato plant again.